I've owned the Logitech MX keyboard for about 6 months now, and I use it for my video editing for these videos. So I wanted to give my honest review on my likes and my dislikes of this keyboard, and I'm actually surprised there are a couple of things I don't like as much, but I'll mention them later on in the video. So let's start with all the likes. As soon as you take it out of the packaging, you notice it's got quite a bit of weight to it. It weighs around 1.1 kilos. So it's probably the heaviest keyboard that I've ever used. But one thing's for sure, it's very sturdy and very solid. The build quality is exceptional from what I can tell. You could almost compare the quality to an iPhone. It's got a very luxurious feel to it. And you'd probably be as surprised as I was to discover that it's actually made from a high quality plastic that looks like metal. So the keys are actually quite low profile compared to many of the keyboards I've used. I'd say it's not as soft as Apple keyboards, which I think I actually prefer. And to me, the travel in the keys are actually a lot less on Apple keyboards, but the quality really shines through on this Logitech keyboard. I also like the fact that it lights up at night. So where I use it in my office and when it starts to get dark, the keys actually illuminate, and it's actually a really nice feature to have. I didn't think I needed it, but on times when I'm working longer hours to edit videos like these, it actually comes in quite handy so you can actually see where you're typing. When the keyboard does illuminate, it's actually got a smart illumination feature, so it lights up when it detects your hands are approaching the keyboard. One of the main reasons I got this particular keyboard is the fact that you can connect it up to 3 different devices. So as my wife also uses it for her work laptop, her personal laptop, and I connect my personal laptop so I can do the video editing. And I like how easy it is to select from one or the other. You've got these 3 keys, 1 to 3. Whichever one you've assigned it to, you can just select it and it works instantly. And the great thing about the multi-device support, you can actually assign it to Mac or Windows computers, which is a great benefit. In my circumstance, that's exactly what we need. There's also a row of keys where you can assign shortcuts, so you have to download the Logitech app. So with these shortcuts, or also called smart actions, you can assign a single button to execute several different tasks using the Logitech app. And it can be so helpful in many different circumstances, even when it comes to video editing. It's actually very simple to use. You can assign several different types of predefined shortcuts, and you can create your own as well. In terms of the noise level, I have noticed it's actually very quiet compared to previous cheaper keyboards that I've owned before. It makes the typing experience a lot more pleasant. To be honest, I'm not really into the mechanical keyboard. I prefer low noise level and low profile keyboards. So here's an example so you get an idea of what it actually sounds like. When it comes to the design, there's no doubt about the fact that it does look very modern compared to many of the keyboards out there. It's very similar to laptops, and that's something I really like. It's very sleek and it's got this brushed aluminum look, and in my opinion, it's just a great aesthetic to give your whole desk setup a very modern look. One other thing I like is that it has feet underneath the keyboard, which just makes it a much more comfortable typing experience. Now let's get into the things I don't like as much. The first thing to mention is the battery life. When you have the backlighting on where the keyboard illuminates, online it states around 10 days of use, but if you switch the backlight off, then it can last up to 5 months. Now in my experience, I think I've found it has lasted a lot longer than 10 days, but I do find it a nuisance having to recharge it, because from previous keyboards that I've owned, they've lasted maybe 9 months to a year, possibly even longer than that. So just having to power the keyboard down is a bit of a nuisance for me. It's relatively quick enough to charge. You can continue using the keyboard while the cable's inserted and charging the keyboard. However, it's the hassle of having to connect it up and having to switch it off every day. But if you really don't use the backlight feature, then you may as well leave it off and it'll last much longer, up to 5 months. And the other thing I have noticed is if you do leave the keyboard powered on at night, it tends to illuminate in the middle of the night randomly. and it can be a bit annoying if you're using the same room as a bedroom and an office, so you have to keep remembering to switch the keyboard off. So overall, I really do like the keyboard. I think if you're in a situation where you're using both Windows and Mac, I think it's the perfect keyboard in that circumstance. But if it's a Mac only household, in my personal opinion, I'd prefer to get the Apple keyboard, simply because I feel like I can type on it much quicker than I can on this Logitech keyboard. In saying that, this Logitech keyboard is very comfortable to use. It's got a very luxurious and solid build, and I genuinely think it's a great option if you're looking out for a premium keyboard. It is on the pricier side, but I can see why it's worth it, especially with all the different smart actions or shortcuts you can assign to it and the 3 devices you can assign to it. So if none of them are applicable to you, then it's probably best to go for a more inexpensive keyboard. But if you want a keyboard that just does it all, then the Logitech is your best choice. So I hope you found that helpful. I based everything on my experience, and I'd love to see you in the next one.